computers often and check what's going on my phone. And you might say, I don't need to worry about protecting my PIN in front of cameras because I don't break the law. Oh yeah, well, Ola didn't break the law either. What's your plan when your own government comes after you? The more they can look into your private life, the more likely they're going to find something bad that you did.
In August, they managed to get into my phone. Of course, the funny part about this is that it's clearly not legal for them to get access to the video cameras that were for our protection and use this for this purpose. According to the laws of Ecuador, this is a violation and shouldn't have been possible. My phone was taken from me under illegal circumstances. The habeas corpus already showed that there were illegal circumstances. So in theory, the phone shouldn't have been possible to use as evidence. But the judges later on ignored all of this.
So once they got into his phone, they started looking through it. They used a tool called Celebrite to analyze his phone, which is a tool used by law enforcement to extract and analyze data from digital devices like phones. And so with this, they were able to grab everything. Ola's lawyers asked for a court date so they could see what the investigators found on the phone. And the technician brought the forensic computer into the courtroom to show them what they found.
I can tell you, by the way, that the version of Celebrite they were using was like 7 years old, so it didn't have support for Signal, which is where I had most of my conversations. But what was interesting was also they basically plugged this phone and Celebrite into a regular desktop computer that was running a cracked version of Windows, that was running Word that was expired, and that had I think I could see on the desktop about 10 different games that was on this machine that they were using to exhibit evidence to us.
Games on there. The fact that games is the funny part.
Like, it's like I didn't even know what to think about it.
I'll tell you what I think about it. Having outdated forensics tools, unlicensed version of Windows, expired Microsoft Word, and video games on this computer indicates to me that the forensics team has zero accountability or integrity. They aren't professionals or serious. You don't play video games on a computer that's collecting evidence for crimes. That chain of custody is extremely important, and evidence should be treated carefully and never tampered with. Yet whoever had this computer did not care what the state of their computer was in, and probably didn't care too much about their job either, or following the rules.
Celebrite had generated 40,000 page PDF with all the content of my phone, because that's apparently what Celebrite does. That's not so helpful. So we started looking at this from page to page to page, and then the prosecutor, he was just like, "This is taking too long. Please just add all of this to the expediente." And what that means is that he basically asked for all those 40,000 pages to be added as evidence. And obviously, like there were nothing sensitive from a security standpoint, but there were private conversations with girlfriends, with my family, like information about I don't know, health history of my family, stuff like that. So there were definitely sensitive things inside of that. And he was just, let's add all of it to the pile of evidence. And what's important to know here is the expediente is public for anyone. Anyone can go into the prosecutor's office and ask for a copy of any expediente. So once it's added there, it's public forever.
They were able to argue that really all 40,000 pages should not be submitted to public record, and they were able to get it stopped, which is good. But then they requested a copy of this document so that they could look through it and prepare a defense if there is anything in there.
So we asked to see the evidence on the phone and see if there was anything we could use. They responded back that no, in order to preserve the privacy of the defendant, we cannot share the information on this phone with his defense. But it turns out that they had access to it. And basically, we found out that the phone and the USB drive is apparently in the safe of this woman, Diana Salazar, who's the prosecutor general of the whole country. They are apparently in her safe inside of that building, and apparently it's still there. And then this is when things take a turn, because a few weeks later, we find out from television. We don't find out from the legal system. We find out from television that the prosecution has found an image on my phone. And this is the image that I shared with you.
Okay, let me pull it up. It's a photo of a computer screen taken by a cell phone. It's poor quality. It looks like a terminal window, like maybe a Linux computer. Now we're looking at the command line here. It looks to me like someone's tried to do a telnet connection to an IP address. And it connects and it says you are connected to an ISP in Ecuador called CNT. But then it says, what's your username? And nothing is typed in. And then it times out and kicks them back into the home directory, which is called Olabini.
So any person with any kind of technical understanding knows that this is a telnet connection where it asks for the username and no one put anything in, and then it times out. That's exactly what it looks like. But the prosecution starts using this, saying that I hacked into the systems of CNT, and they claim that this picture is actually the proof that I hacked into their systems. In fact, they're so confused that they start asking if this IP address has a username Olabini on it, because they think that the prompt at the end of it is not the prompt on the computer making the telnet call. They think it's the prompt of the computer that is running the IP address.
You're making me furious.
Yeah.
So here's my question though, okay? So this photo is it looks like maybe taken by a cell phone, especially if it was found on your phone, of a computer screen, because I see the reflection of the screen and shadow and such. So why did you take this photo?
The funny part is, first of all, you can see on the timestamps, this log information includes the year, which shows that this was taken in October 2015. So first of all, this image has nothing to do with why I was arrested in the first place. Secondly, the funny thing is, I don't even remember taking this photo. Like, it's likely that I did take the photo, but I don't even remember it. I do know what happened after, because this photo came from WhatsApp. And I have a friend, his name is Ricardo, and he's worked with open source and free software in Ecuador for many, many years. And in 2015, he had a contract with CNT. He was working with them. And basically, the WhatsApp message that I sent with the image is basically, hey, what do you think about this? Or something of that style. And I sent a picture, and the response I got says, looks like a router to me. I'll see what I can find out. So that was the only conversation that was around this picture. So the way I interpret this, since I don't remember taking this picture, is that I must have found an open telnet port to the internet, and this is something that is not great for a big corporation like CNT. So I must have thought that, okay, I can tell Ricardo about this, and he can escalate it to the right person. And that's what I think is what happened.
Well, this is it. The Ecuadorian prosecutors thought this was the smoking gun. Clearly, he's connected to an ISP in this photo, which clearly he's not even trying to log into it. I mean, if you're going to attempt to log into something, I would at least think that you would put in your username, right? But he doesn't even put in a username to try to log in. But that didn't matter. The prosecutor was going to make this his crime. So Ecuador was now charging him with access without permission to a computer system or telecommunication system. Well, in my opinion, this is going to be a slam dunk case for Ola. He's being charged with access. The photo, the only evidence they have on him, clearly shows he doesn't access it. Well, I mean, I'm perplexed by what the government even thinks you've done wrong at this point, right? They thought you were a Russian hacker, and at this point, you're not Russian. They don't have any evidence of you hacking. So haven't they, don't they think maybe we just have the wrong guy? Like, let's really look at this analytically. We're not seeing any evidence on this guy. Like, why would they have kept you? I mean, from their perspective, what do you think was the reason why they were holding you?
Well, we have one theory. In March of 2019, there was a very big leak of documents in Ecuador called the INA papers. And the INA papers were basically financial documents showing that the president, his name is Lenin Moreno, his family were hiding a lot of money in tax paradises and all kinds of bad stuff. And Lenin Moreno was furious about these papers. And some people say that the reason why Julian was thrown out is because WikiLeaks tweeted a link to the INA papers. Now, the INA papers didn't come from WikiLeaks as far as we know, but Julian posted a link to it. And Lenin Moreno was very upset about this. So basically what we heard is that he told Romo to get him the person responsible for this. Now, here's where it gets stupid. The secret intelligence organization in Ecuador was called SENAIN. So SENAIN was basically like an internal NSA, an internal CIA that were spying on everyone inside of Ecuador. Senain had a source, a secret source called El Ruso. So that was their name for the source. And apparently, the way we've heard it told is that the whole INA papers thing happened because El Ruso published these papers. So this was like an internal scandal inside of the Senain, doing an attack against the president with these INA papers.
El Ruso,
Now,
meaning the Russian.
The Russian, exactly. So basically, what seems to have happened is that Romo went to the cops and to everyone saying that, okay, we need El Ruso. And then the day before I was arrested, there was a meeting where some of the cops, high-up cops, presented a photo of me saying that I was El Ruso. But there were other people around the table that knew who the source was and said, no, he is not El Ruso. Romo ignored all of that, and that's what set in motion all of the stuff that happened afterwards. Basically, I became a scapegoat for the president, for the whole thing. Actually, I served as a scapegoat for two things. First, I served as a scapegoat for the INA papers, but they never charged me with that. They never actually accused me of the INA papers. But they also used it as a way of explaining what happened with Julian, why they threw out Julian. So basically, they were saying that Julian Assange was thrown out of the embassy because he was working with Ola Dini in order to destabilize the government. So I was politically useful for the political class in Ecuador to have as an excuse or as a scapegoat for these different events.
They were accusing you of destabilizing the government.
Yeah, that's what Romo said in that press conference. Legally speaking, I was never accused of that.
What an awful situation to be in. To be a political scapegoat? He's never going to win this. I mean, if the president is like, bring whoever leaked this to justice, then the authorities better do something, or they're going to face embarrassment. So it seems like the authorities just grabbed someone who looked like it, just to please the higher-ups, that they caught someone. But if he's found innocent, the higher-ups are going to get upset all over again. So they absolutely must find something Ola is guilty of in order to appease the corrupt politicians. And there's just no winning move for anyone. No wonder judges are confused, and cops can't figure out what they're supposed to do with him. No wonder nobody is explaining anything to him, because they purposely arrested the wrong man in order to make him a scapegoat. I don't see how this will ever end for Ola. I think he's going to be dealing with this for decades. He was let out of prison in 2019, but he's required to check in weekly to the prosecutor's office by going down there in person to show himself. And years go by of him doing that.
So it went really slowly, but finally in January of 2022, we went to trial. And at that point, my team and me, we had asked some friends around the world to serve as expert witnesses. So I had 4 friends of mine from different places serve as expert witnesses. One of them is Roger Dingledine. He's one of the co-creators of Tor. And another one is DMA. That was one of the kind of original people for cybersecurity. He was the person that ran BugTrack for a long time. And a few other people. That basically, these people, like Roger was there because they were saying in the accusation that using Tor is a sign of me being a criminal. You only use Tor if you're a criminal. So Roger was there basically to explain that now Tor has many uses. And the others were there to explain how Telnet works, like how like a connection works. And like you have to realize these judges, they're like 50, 60 years old, all of them. They have absolutely no technical knowledge.
It's not just the judges, but the investigators too had video games on their computers that they were using to investigate your case with.
Exactly. No one had any technical understanding. So basically, this was a big challenge.
Guess how long his trial took to complete? I mean, just take a wild guess. Go ahead, say duration of time.
We had to pause the trial and then take it up again 3 times. So the trial finally ended in 2023. So the whole trial took a year.
A whole year. God, how excruciating. For a trial to last this long with absolutely no evidence on him is absurd.
The good thing is that at the end of all this, these 3 judges unanimously, they declared that I was innocent. So they made a written declaration that was quite good. Because the thing that I've been worried about, my case is a bad case, not just for me, but it's a very bad case for cybersecurity researchers in the country. So when this result came in, I was actually quite happy because they wrote a lot of stuff that would serve as protection for future cybersecurity researchers in the country.
Oh yeah, a lot of people speculated that the reason all this happened is because Ola is a privacy activist, creating tools to keep the government from spying on you. So you can see how this could upset the government. So he was particularly happy to see that the judges used language which would protect future researchers from getting in trouble.
But sadly, what ended up happening is that the prosecutors, they appealed the decision.
Of course they appealed. They are never going to let him go. They have to keep him in legal trouble or else their house of cards is going to fall down. So a new trial date was set, this time for a whole year later.
A year ago, it was in the beginning of April last year, I was in front of 3 judges that was from the provincial level.
But this time, it didn't go his way. The judges found him guilty. But they didn't find him guilty of the charge that he was on trial for. He was on trial for unauthorized access to a computer. But the judges changed his charge and found him guilty of attempted unauthorized access to a computer. They added the attempted part all on their own.
So in Ecuador, you're not allowed to change the accusation. If you're accused, someone will be convicted for that or they will not be convicted. And these judges, they did a very, very bad thing because what they said in their decision is that they said that because I had the knowledge to break in, that's enough to call this an attempt. So only the fact that I had the knowledge was enough to say that this was, what they used the word tentativa, that this was an unauthorized access, just because I had the possibility and I knew the tools.
It's like a circus, this court. It's a bunch of clowns running the show. How can the prosecutors violate so many of his rights and get away with it? How can the judges change his charge and find him guilty of something else entirely? But even all that aside, simply having the knowledge of how to do a Telnet connection is enough to convict someone of attempted hacking in Ecuador? Come on, this is killing me. Of course, now he has to appeal this. And so he said to the court, this is ridiculous. Can we please get this sorted? You've arrested an innocent man. I'm appealing this. Let's take this to the next level.
And we sent in that request for appeal in July of 2024, and the judges have not responded since then. So they're basically just not responding.
This is what I mean. He's never going to escape this legal battle. The authorities, the prosecutors, the judges, they all know he's innocent. But he's a political scapegoat. So he's got to stay tangled up in this legal battle for optics of some sort. And it especially looks good if his last trial found him guilty. So I'm willing to bet there's never going to be a new trial for him. He's going to remain in this limbo of being guilty, but also not being in prison for a long time to come.
I've been in this situation for 6 years since I came out of prison. For 6 years, I've been living with constant surveillance. And because of this, my friends decided that I needed protection because we don't know what their goal is. So I have been living with bodyguards and I don't leave I'm not allowed to leave my apartment without bodyguards, basically. So I've been living like that for 6 years now. They're so afraid of losing face. So they don't want to stop now because they're afraid that they will look bad. So that's why this process continues, because all of these powerful people, like the president of the country, literally went out on public television saying that I was a criminal. While I was in prison, this was in April of 2019, I was in prison, and he was saying that I was hacking in the airport. When I was arrested. That's what he literally said to the whole country. And of course, we have pictures that show that when I was arrested, I was reading a book. So unless you call it hacking to read a book. And then he was also saying that I didn't have any training equipment with me. But actually, in the lists that the police made of all my belongings is all of my training equipment. So when the president of the country goes out and lies to the whole population about you, it's a position where they can lose a lot of face. And it wasn't just him. It was Bromo and many other people that have gone out publicly and put their name on the fact that they think that I am a criminal. So for this reason, I've been stuck in this, and I don't know when it's going to end, to be honest. But I believe that, honestly, they would never have done this now. But since they're stuck in the situation, they just don't want to lose face.
And can you leave the country now?
No. And I still have to present myself at the prosecutor's office every week. I still have no access to my bank accounts. And I'm basically living with the help of my friends because I use their bank accounts to be able to pay things.
What is the public opinion of you?
That's a great question. And from the beginning, I had a lot of, so I'm very lucky because I have a lot of international friends. I have friends all around the world. And when I was arrested, a lot of the international community immediately came out to support me. The EFF has been particularly supportive, and the Tor projects, because those are the people I work closely with, and we know each other. But Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, there's been more than 100 different international organizations that have come out in my support, and they came out in my support immediately. And it was very heartening to feel that support when I was still in prison and worried about what was going to happen. Here in Ecuador, it's changed. Basically, from the beginning, the government had all the narrative because I wasn't outside. I couldn't do any interviews. I wasn't allowed to talk to the press or anything like that. So during the first year or so, everyone was like, "Oh, you're that hacker," and basically that's what was happening in the minds of basically everyone. But I've had a team helping me that was helping me with the defense. They were also giving advice on how to change the public opinion and how to do interviews in a good way. And I'm really, really happy to say that basically most of the population in Ecuador are actually on my side at this point. They just think about me as the poor software developer that got thrown in prison by the previous government. So right now, I'm feeling very supportive. And actually, that's why. So I told you I have the NGO, but actually I run another organization as well, which is called Seguridad Digital SE, which is basically a cybersecurity company. We do both offensive security work and defensive security work. And for the last year or so, I've been able to find work doing that kind of stuff to finance the NGO on the side. And the fact that I'm able to do that kind of work and people are comfortable allowing me to do penetration testing or security audits without any trouble means that they don't really believe any of the accusations.
Are you recognized on the street in Ecuador?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, yesterday I was at an event and I spent probably 30 minutes people taking pictures together with me, and I get regularly recognized when I go to the supermarket or anything like that.
Ola lives in fear of the possibility that any day they might suddenly deny his appeal and immediately take him to prison. After all, he was found guilty of attempted hacking. So it's possible the police could just come and lock him up at any moment. And this kind of stuff gives him panic attacks when he starts thinking about it. It's really hard to get to the truth of the story. To figure out exactly what it is that you're being charged of and what they think you're guilty of is still not even entirely clear. That they're accusing you of attempted hacking. Into what was my target? Who hurt the victim? Bring the victim forward. And so if that's not the case, if it is because the president doesn't like whistleblowers and they're just going to blame you for being a whistleblower, and now that it's turned out that you're not the actual whistleblower, the government doesn't want to be embarrassed for saying publicly that you're the one who did it, and so we're just going to carry on with it anyway. It's a whole other world of it's almost conspiracy theory stuff to imagine what the government thinks without actually knowing what the government thinks. You're just making stuff up at that point, and I hate to indulge in that, but there's no other road here that I can go down to make sense of the story.
I completely feel you. I completely understand you because, to be honest, I'm not sure if I buy any of the explanations I've given you. Like, these are the explanations that we have any kind of possibility that they might be true, but I don't know if they're true, and they don't explain some other stuff that we've heard. Like, for example, we've heard that CNT was very close to the U.S. Embassy, and that the U.S. Embassy instructed CNT to continue with the case against me, for example. And we've heard other things that keep happening that, to be honest, don't necessarily explain everything. One example is a journalist actually published photographs, and I can identify that these photographs were taken weeks before I was arrested. And if I was under surveillance long before I was arrested, that means that the whole story about the Maya Palermo and the INA papers and all that stuff must be false. There must be something else behind this. Sadly, we've done freedom of information requests, and we've asked all the government entities about what information they have about me, and they all responded that they have no information about me, including the cops that are surveilling me have no information about me. So, this is the kind of thing that I lie awake during nights trying to figure out, like, why did they do this? What was the purpose, and what are they thinking? And especially the constant surveillance. Now, 6 years later, why are they still keeping me under surveillance? It must cost them so much money.
Have you heard of the book, The Trial, by Franz Kafka? It's a fictional story and meant to be totally absurd, but it's almost the identical story of Ola Bini. In the book, The Trial, a man named Kay is arrested, and they don't tell him why. In fact, they make him feel bad for even asking questions. The people arresting him say it's not their job to say why he's under arrest. They're just carrying out orders to arrest him. So they don't even know why themselves. And they tell him, well, you learn everything at your hearing, but when he goes to his hearing, Kay doesn't learn anything about why he's been arrested. Instead, they tell him, well, you'll find out at your trial. But then they tell him his trial is super far into the future. In the meantime, they let him go home and do his business as usual. So he's stuck in this space that they say he's done something illegal, but they won't say what, with a looming trial far off into the future. And in the book, Kay stays locked in this legal battle without ever knowing what he did wrong until he dies. Part of why I'm so frustrated about Ola's story is because it feels like no one has accountability for his situation. The cops didn't know why they arrested him, so he can't get clarity there. The prosecutors weren't sure either. They were probably just following orders too. The judges were also in the dark. And when bureaucracy becomes that thick, where you can't find anyone accountable, then you face big problems like this. Innocent people start losing their freedom. Because if everyone's just following orders and no one takes responsibility or is accountable, then where does truth fit into anything? In my opinion, this Ola Bini case is frivolous. Not because it's weak, but because it was never meant to win. The main objective of a frivolous case is to waste someone's time, money, or energy through court. And that's what makes it so dangerous. You and I can't file a frivolous case to waste someone else's money, but the government can do it. And here's an example of them doing it. They use the process as punishment when they want to hurt someone. But no, they can't win. They just do this. And I'm still wondering if this is a battle over privacy. If Ola was helping people stay private and secure and harder to surveil, then I could see how governments could be upset about that. And maybe they thought they could arrest him and find something later to charge him with, but were no match for his own privacy practices. A lot of people think that's the reason why he was arrested. And it's scary to think that those helping us be more private can face legal troubles like this. It's also a bit ironic that Julian Assange was confined to the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years until he was forced out, and now Ola Bini, his friend, has been confined to Ecuador for over 6 years now, unable to leave, forced to stay there by the government. In 2021, there were elections for a new president in Ecuador. By that time, Lenin Moreno, the sitting president, had a disastrously low approval rating of 9%. He didn't even try to run. In 2023, Diana Salazar, Ecuador's Attorney General, brought forth charges against the ex-president, Lenin Moreno. And by the way, she's the same person who supposedly has Ola's phone in her safe. She's alleging that Lenin Moreno conducted corruption over the building of some hydroelectric plants. So now the ex-president has his own legal problems where he has to do what the court says. He even has to appear before a prosecutor every few weeks, just like Ola has to. And that's where we're at today. Both Ola and the ex-president are waiting for the next steps in their legal battles. And we'll see where they both end up. But I sure hope that Ola gets out of all this soon. He didn't break any systems, but the system tried to break him. And maybe it's still trying to do that.